Welcome to the Smart Factory.
Well, good morning. I hope everybody is doing well. This session is about, my title is basically that the web to print is so much more than just the www. So we just give it a few more moments before people are here, everybody. So I hope you have had a good day, and I look forward to as I said when I did the Learn with Us a couple of months ago, it is kind of strange to be here on your own, because normally you invite a guest, you have an interaction with each other. I can see that people are attending the room right now, so that is cool. And if anybody wants to participate in the conversation during the speak, you can just click on the little hand. That means request to speak, and then we can have things. But let me at least do the presentation first. So I will just see if I can make that work. Hang on a second. So here we are. So I hope everybody can see my presentation right now, which I'm using as a screen share. So hopefully everything works okay with this way of doing things. I will just check one thing for a second. Hang on a second. That's because I have one screen there, which is what you see, and then I have my screen here, which is what I see. So that's how the technology works. So first of all, who am I, and why should I be in a position where I should be able to give you any information whatsoever? Many of you know me as the editor of INKISH TV and INKISH News, which I'm very happy about. I know this may come as a surprise to you, but I am 52 years old. I'm married, second time, this time with Nina, and I intend to be married with her for the rest of my life. And we have the oldest son, Mads, 15, and Casper, 13, and then I have my daughter. And see, I forgot to update the age because she's actually 27 years old now. So and she works as a assistant brand marketing assistant with Hasbro. So she's responsible for Star Wars in Denmark. So I get tips and tricks from her as well. The photo is from when Jan and I visited the AMS in last year. So we just thought it was kind of fun because you had to wear these security glasses, because sometimes you forget that when you're in the printing industry, actually a lot of the actual production of hardware is hard labor, steels, and a lot of things that can actually damage your health if you don't watch out. So, but that's enough about me for now. So my claim is that web to print is more than www, and as most of you probably are aware of or think, is basically that most people, when they talk about I want to have a web to print solution, or I want to work selling on the internet, I think that most people think of this as the flyer alarms, the online printers, the Moo, and all these competitors in the market that are very successful, very visible, and things like that. But there is something that is not as visible to the public as the wwws, and that is part of the backbone of how these things operate. And that is what I would like to talk about today, not so much from a technical perspective, but maybe more from how it can be used and what kind of advantages it gives you to understand and know these things. And I've got to say that if you have any questions during this presentation, just throw them in the chat. I am able to see the chat as we go. I may not be able to answer them right away, but I will try if there's any questions anyway. So let's move on. First of all, I think it's important to understand who are buying print online, who are our customers, because you may have a printing company where you know that, okay, you are addressing specifically for real estate people or for restaurants or for brand owners or for signage companies. I mean, so basically when you have a physical store, it's quite easy to identify, also because you often address the address your marketing and products and your facility to what kind of customers you want to address, right? And I chose to give some examples on typical kind of customers you could think of. You have some customers that could be like Mr. and Mrs. Jones, private persons. That is, for example, the segment that often is for photo books and postcards and some of the things that we're also going to touch upon in a second. Some of your customers are young, some are old, some are unexperienced and some are very unexperienced. And that also relates to that some, you know, are well aware of how to use web-to-print solutions. And then I just chose another font to identify that some people may not even come from your own country. So sometimes you also have to think about that both cultures and your UI and your product offerings may need to be in different what's it called, different languages, different currencies, different measures. Let's say that, for example, if you sell in the US, they don't use the metric system. So if you want to sell in both Europe and the US, you may have to have web solutions that can do both, right? And some of your buyers and some of your customers are professional buyers and some are not. So I think that this is not conclusive, but I think this gives an overview of some of the challenges when you have a web-to-print solution, because you cannot have maybe not one approach to all. So here's an example on, for example, before we go into the web-to-print kind of thing, is how we normally buy from a printing company. Often you have a process with an RFQ, and then I can't spell, I can see, but then you have clarify, and then you have offer, compare, order, files, proof, print, binding, shipping, invoice, and payment. And that is like typical way that most printing companies that are not online printers operate today. If you simplify that a little bit with an online printer, you can see that they often start with the payment. All the products are given because you select the products, which basically gives you whether it's a brochure, whether it's a folder, whether it's a poster, whether it's a postcard, whatever. And then when you have chosen the quality and the number of pages and the volume you want, you pay. So the payment is an essential part of the success of online printing, is that you eliminate some of the risks involved with selling print on invoices. So pay, order, files, proof, print, binding, and shipment. And the thing is, of course, that in this session, we're not going to talk about how you can optimize your production in order to get profitable selling these things so cheap as you sometimes see from the printing companies online. But for sure, you can understand that just the fact that you have standardized products, standardized papers, standardized everything makes, of course, your production way more streamlined. And when being streamlined also, to some extent, will give you a way better understanding of how you can optimize your production. I also try to say that, okay, we have different markets. And again, this is probably not very conclusive, because you could probably identify several other markets if you really dig into it. But if you look at it from a very umbrella perspective, I would say that you have business to consumers, then you have business to business, and then you have something that I refer to as a service market. The service market I will get back to in a little while, but I think that most of you are mainly interested in maybe the business to consumer and business to business, because that is something that is way more aligned with most of your business today and maybe easier for you to address. So the service market could be, if you have transactional print, then the data is delivered through the internet, but it's not seen as a web-to-print service, but it's using some of the same mechanisms as you used on these kind of things. So just so you know what I'm talking about. And then also we need to talk a little bit about competitors, because who is the one that is your most fearful competitor? I think that for many printing companies, it's yourself, because web-to-print is dramatically changing your business. If you are today a conventional printing company where you have key account management, when we have account managers servicing and you have project managers servicing your customers. Basically, if you go and decide to be a fully online printing company and using web to print services, you have to think that it can change your company dramatically. For example, I think that when I used to work in printing companies, most accounts had different pricing policies. So if you had customers that required more service or customers that were able to pay more, the same product could have different pricing. If you have a web to print, you will suddenly be very transparent. So that is, of course, one thing. Competitors, obviously, also other online printers. And I believe that these online printers can be a competitor to you for several reasons. One is, of course, that they are already in the market, really streamlined organizations, and many of them are seen as very aggressive when it comes to marketing, very low prices for some of them. So that might be something that disencourage you to actually start your online business, but don't. Online printers have one market, but you can have B2B that is totally invisible for the public. And you don't even know if online printers have these kind of services. A lot of them offer also white label solutions where you can take advantage of their production capacity and make some money on doing this, which also have some challenges, but just so you know. And then I have invented this really bad word, but I like it anyway. It's the non-line printers, because essentially when you have, if you serve, for example, a book market where you have close contacts to the publishing companies, and you know that you're up against some of your competitors that you know well, these obviously also will start saying that if you go into the online market, maybe that will differentiate your product offering from what they can do. So that is also something that you have to take into considerations. And finally, in this round, there's a lot of companies in the market that sell print, but they don't sell print. They sell product that relates to the print they're doing. And I will also give you some examples on this in a second here. So the way I have tried to identify this is basically that the interface is where you meet your sales opportunity. As I started the session with the www is mainly the sessions where you have like the public interface or the business to business interface where you're using typically a web browser to do that. So that's why I have identified this with a globe, because this is accessible for everybody with a web browser and its internet connection, at least in theory. And then we have apps. Quite a few printing companies don't really see apps as an opportunity. And I don't really understand, and maybe it's me, but I have been on several occasions went into the App Store and searched for print, all kinds of print terms, to see if I could find apps that relate specifically to the printing industry. You find a lot of apps for your home inkjet printer, and you find a lot of apps for services that uses print but are not like specifically printing companies. And I'm sometimes wonders why printing companies are not really using these kind of services. But that is a question that we can raise in another debate, of course, at some point. And then we have the APIs. And for those who don't know what an API is, that is essentially short for application programming interface. So that is, I have identified this with a computer, so you can basically see that this is the language that enables you to address other services. It can be services in-house, it can be services from outside, it can be services from vendors, but it can also be services from other printing companies. And I will now see if I can click on this one and see if I can share this link so you can see what happens. Hang on a second here. And I have here. I hope you can see that now. That should be possible. Hang on a second. Just need to be sure that it works. Yes, it does. So I was just looking a little bit around the web to find out how many actually offer this, and there's a website called Programmable Web, where you have a lot of different services, not only for the printing industry, but in general. And here, just searching a very short search term for, I think I was printing APIs. You can see 40 came along. This is, and the first is Google, Kodak, and Shutterfly. And basically, you can see these different services are from companies that some of them you know, some of them you may not know. But you can see, for example, we have here Moo. Moo is an online printer specialized in selling business cards online. Then you have also, I think I saw Simpress here, Shutterfly. Yeah, that changes a little bit from time to time when you go into this website. But basically, these apps or these APIs give you access to some of the services that you can find within these kind of services. So let's say if we click on the Google Print API here, just to see what happens, you can see that now you get in, there's a description of what it does, and you have the SDKs, that is the software development kits, and you have some comments, source code, and you have all these kind of things. And if you dig into it, you can see what these services actually offer you. So APIs is also a way of getting business, because if you, for example, have let's say that you're using some of the latest technologies from InFocus and from Tilia Labs and from Ultimate Technographics and from all these kind of companies, you can actually offer your printing services through an API, enabling third parties to contribute to your kind of thing, right? So I will just go back to my presentation here. If it, okay, I'm just trying to figure out why it, here it is. And I just play again here. So the APIs is one way of getting work to your printing company. And I think that this is an opportunity that more people should look into in the future, because let's say that the big question is always, why do you want to have a online presence? Most people want this for several reasons. One reason is obviously because you need to have you want to have more customers. You also want to meet customers where customers are. So obviously you need to be on the web or with apps and things like that. But there's also the business perspective. You want to utilize your equipment as much as possible. And one of the ways to do that is to, of course, sure that you have multiple sources of work. Where does it come from? One thing is that you may keep your account managers and your traditional way of doing things. You may want to have a web to print storefront that gives you more or less automated work. You may want to have apps that give you specialized or specific work that is based on, let's say that you have off time during the night shift. Why not have a totally automated sheet-fed produced photo print? I will show you an example of a company that does that in a second. Or with the APIs, if you can tie into the workflow of some of your major customers or some of the services that are developed from other people, then you may be in a situation that could be really interesting, because you will have multiple sources delivering jobs into your company. So what are these companies? The WWWs, they are very well identified. These screenshots are a little bit old, so I apologize if they look different now. But so the people that knows me know that I have very bad humor. So that's why I show this, because you have Hello Print, which is in family with Onlineprinters, and you have Saxo Print, which is in family with Sieve. And if you look at these two websites from a customer's or consumer's perspective, they may look similar in the way they offer products. I'm not talking about how they look, and not about the prices, but this is essentially a place where you buy print, right? The difference is that Saxo Print is one thing here. Hello Print is another print. So I was joking about Saxo Print, and Hello, they don't print. Hello Print is basically a service or a print broker based in Holland or the Netherlands, where they essentially buy print from other vendors and sell them through the website. And I know they're very ambitious. I also know they had some issues with that they announced earlier due to the COVID-19, but that is not related specifically to this one. But I'm just saying that, so two different business models, two different ways of doing things, and examples of two ways of doing things from a selling perspective. Then I have found 3 apps, and I have made a small recording of all of them, because essentially PostNord is the Nordic postal service, and I'm pretty sure that this kind of service exists within almost every print or within every market. I know that, for example, my postcard is doing a similar thing with the Deutsche Post. But let me give you an example. I may need to change the screen again. So hang on again a second here. PostNord. So I just take this back. So just to give you a very brief example, this is a very simple app where you allow the app to address your the photos you have on your computer, and you basically select some photos. You can see that I've taken some photos here with my sons, Mads and Kasper. This is not Mads and Kasper, this is Rudolph, the reindeer. And then you put on some frames or whatever you want to do. I didn't try to do a design contest here. I just wanted to give you an example on how you can easily, from the app, you can easily do some examples of things. Then you write a message. And this is, I think it's true. That is for GraphCom, which I did this presentation for earlier. And essentially now you have a recipient. And the idea with this service from PostNord is not to sell postcards. I think the main idea with this is, oh, now people can see what I'm watching. Sorry, this jokes and cameras and spacecraft and speeches by Obama. So now you know. But let's go back to the webinar cam here again. No, so basically you can see that PostNord is not in the business for selling print. But they do sell print, because the way they sell print is utilizing an API where they have a service provider printing the postcards with postage and sell that as an online service. And I think that this is a brilliant example on how you can do these kind of things. And then let's go back to the presentation here, because I have one more example, 2 more examples actually. PrintTech is a very simple app, again, that I have also used myself, and I think it's a wonderful app, to be honest. I think it's very simple. You basically show again your photos, and then you select a number of products, and then you basically get them shipped in different types of pre-made boxes. So it's kind of like a photo service, but it's a little bit more exclusive. When I received mine, I was actually quite happy with it. I think it looked cool. I think it was really a great idea how they, how they did things, and it was very easy to do. And when I look at from a business perspective, I mean, most of you, if you have like a B2 digital machine, like an Indigo machine, for example, I am pretty sure that most of you know that the cost of one sheet is a very low price. If you have automated how you cut this sheet into different, tiles of sizes of postcards, and then the only thing you do is essentially stack them and put it in a box and then ship it. I don't know if you saw that, but it was like 17 euros for a box plus shipment. And that essentially gives you an opportunity to sell something that is print, but it is a service you sell, because you will have a way higher profit on these types of product than selling 50 sheets or 100 sheets or 1,000 sheets to any of your commercial customers. So it's about how to use the technology to increase the value of what you are offering, right? So let's take the last example here. This is I just want to. That is always the problem with being a one-man army, is I have to manage several screens at the same time. So I hope now we're back again. The last one you can see is if you don't know what it's about, you may not know specifically what is it, but it's actually I think it's called print tiles. Let's take a look at it. I will again change the screen so you can see. And mixed tiles. And it's kind of funny because one of the jobs that we have recently done in Germany last 2 weeks ago, together with Skodex, was from a company called Traffic, just in not so far away from Braunschweig, and they are not mixed tiles, but they are the company that have been starting the collaboration with mixed tiles to create these tiles. And the idea is simple: that again, you use the phone to select some photos, and then they are printed on some frames, and these frames have some kind of self-adhesive on the background. So basically, when you are getting these tiles, you can stick them directly to the wall, basically. And that is like something that, you know, it's been quite popular because it's been TV commercials. It's been quite a few places where you have opportunities to see print and how these things. Everything with this works essentially the way that you have an API, and that API delivers the data and the product and everything that the printer needs to have an automated kind of flow of everything afterwards, right? So pretty cool and very interesting way of also seeing print as a service that changes from being the more traditional kind of business. Then you also have few other things, how you can do things. For example, I found these two solutions, and both solutions are offering, they're owned by, for example, the first one is owned by Canon, and in this incident, Canon obviously have an interest in creating a demand and creating clicks for their machines and their equipment. So Kite, which is the name of it, is as you can see, internet business kind, where they can offer their customers to get work to them. If you look at companies like the digital ones, the business model are changing, because, you know, if you look at the large, I'm just about to say iron manufacturers, the original business idea was to sell the printing machine and then service it. But if you look at companies, I think that when I looked into the accounting of HP, I think actually that the 68% of HP's revenue in 2019 was from consumables. So you can imagine that if you sell printing equipment and you can utilize job and work to your customers, both the customer will benefit from it, but also the vendor will benefit from it. And it will also, which is something that everybody, of course, should be aware of, is that it could also create a deeper connection with your supplier. It's not so easy. I mean, one thing is to take one brand machine and take it out of production and insert another brand machine. But if all your services and all the technologies and all the workflow and how you get the orders into your printing company is addressed by services that you also have bought from a vendor, then it's something that you have to think of. And as we spoke about yesterday, I think part of the smart factory and also the industry 4.0 is essentially that we have a way closer relationship with the with the vendors that we had in the past. So maybe this is just a natural development of things, but you should be aware of it anyway. One thing that I also would like to talk about in this session here is a lot of people equals online print with cheap. And I think that is a misconception of everything, because that you should maybe ask is different. What is the specialized versus the commodity? If you have specialized print, whether you sell it in the conventional channels with account management and things like that, versus the commodity. Commodity is identified buying commoditized, of course. So I just want to give you some example, because I think that Moo is a brilliant example of relatively specialized print, where they have offered like a few different products and services, but all of them in a higher price range. It's not low price that is their tagline. It's I think it's high quality that is way more. Then small printing company that I very often use as example is Elegante Press. This is a family-owned letterpress company in Lithuania. They do some of the most stunning work on letterpresses you can think of, and I know, because I've been there, I know they make good money on it. They have customers all over the place because they have this order online option. So that is not a cheap product. You can say that maybe Print24, Onlineprinters, Fly Alarm, and many of the other bigger printing companies, online printing companies, have been selling themselves as being both commodity and cheap. But if you look at their offerings today, it's actually changing, because, for example, Onlineprinters, they also now offer screen print services, no screen print, but letterpress services. And if you look at the offerings, I think a lot of them are now broadening their perspectives and their offerings in order to make sure that they get higher value, higher revenue, take a bigger portion of the value chain, and these kind of things. So I'm just saying this because I think that it would be a shame if you think of online equals cheap. That is the reason why I mentioned this in this thing here. Your business will change. One thing is that we will have to change according to some of the things that we are talking about this week, the smart factory kind of thing. But there's terms that you basically have to get to know regardless of what kind of product and service you offer. Automation is one. Automation is for some maybe a kind of buzzword, and for some it's like a necessity. I think that automation have a lot of advantages. One, you get rid of repetitive work, and you eliminate or limit errors a lot, and you can become more profitable because you have less labor involved in some of the processes that might be labor intensive. When we went to the Think Smart Factory event in Kyoto last year, that was organized by Horizon, one of the things I really appreciated about that show was that you had like 10 different end-to-end solutions. So you could see that everything from how to you add a PDF file in one end and you get a finished product out in the other end. This is something where you really see the level of automation. Most printers understand that binding and binderies is still like kind of labor intensive, but it's moving now also to become very, very interesting from a perspective of automation. Please don't give that automation optimization to your customers. Keep the profit yourself, because you will need new skill set in your company that are maybe more expensive than binders and printers in order to stay competitive. Another word, ganging. I know that a lot of people know the word and understand it, but I think that optimization of the print production continues to be something that everybody should be really focusing on. Then also something that is, at least in my part of the world, is something that is probably going to be a challenge. Most printing companies, at least offset printing companies, have always been operating with full cost models or absorption cost models. But a lot of companies are also looking into marginal cost models. And I'm saying this because you cannot expect that everything also from a pricing perspective is the same as it was in the past. That doesn't mean that you don't have the profit, and it doesn't mean that you don't have to make the same money regardless of what kind of model you're using. I just remember when I was younger and worked in a printing company where my boss, he was using the full cost model to calculate a price in hand. And then he was like, no, this is too cheap. where we didn't have any work at the printing company at that time. And essentially the variable cost was only a fraction of it. And as long as the sales price is higher than the variable cost, it is still a profitable way to go on if you have free capacity in your printing company. That is something that you simply have to understand in order to move into, at least if you want to do an online business that is maybe extending your growth. Drop shipping is a word you have to get to use as well. This is, I think that for most people, you know what it is. I can tell you that with both existing online printers and also from other industries, I have tested quite a few. This seems to be an extremely difficult challenge for not only the printing companies, but also for the shippers. So who is a shipper if it's not the actual shipper's name that you have on the postal label? If your company is normally having a drop note included in the box, how do you manage to make sure that you get the right letterhead for the right customers and things like that? That is for sure something that you have to be aware of if you're also considering white labeling. APIs, we already spoke about, really important. And then mergers and acquisitions. I mean, a lot of people may think that the time is not good for mergers and acquisitions. But I tell you, the COVID-19 have opened up a lot of mergers and acquisitions. The cash-rich companies are looking at companies that have less cash and see that as an opportunity to buy. Another thing is also that a lot of people in this industry are building up companies based on a lot of users, and when they have a lot of users and some volume, very attractive also for online printers and even for some of the free money in the market to be acquired from. So this is something that you should also have as part of your understanding of your business. And then you have, of course, you have to avoid some of the obvious pitfalls. For example, I write here that the systems over application. I think that a lot of people also already, what I have heard in these seminars, are talking about own development versus standard solutions. Obviously, you can have situations where you will need to build something that is specifically tailor-made to your own standards. But from my knowledge, I would say there's a lot of software solutions in the market. And I would also say that most of these are very, very capable of a lot of different things. And therefore, you should be really, really careful about considering going into your own development. I know that even some of the bigger online printers in Europe are making their own solutions, but based on a kit of, then they use the InFocus switch for one thing, and they use Telia Labs Phoenix for one thing, and they use a workflow system from different vendors to tailor-make basically what they need. And that is something that you really have to think about. And then be aware, don't buy too cheap and don't buy too expensive. There is the price itself on a solution, in my opinion, does not necessarily say anything about whether it's a good or bad solution, because it depends on what you want with your business and how you want to get on with that one. Then you have to also, of course, work with yourself. We have already tried that. Might be true, might also be in another time. It might be something that you used to do when technologies were not emerged or customers were not ready, or you didn't take enough ownership of that process to make sure that it happened. For example, when I listened to Luke Peters' presentation yesterday, this is a company also like Ulrich Jetzel. He will be joining us later. But when I looked into these companies that came from being conventional offset printing companies to become fully digital, these companies are that is like point of no return. I think they, if I'm exaggerating a little bit, they probably trashed all the old stuff, got the new stuff, and tried to convince customers to stay on board, and they did. So they were all into it. And then again, there's no let's do it tomorrow. Everything is something that you will need to do now. tomorrow is something that is completely different. One of the concerns that I often hear about is, of course, the pricing thing. As I said before, it's very important, in my opinion, that the prices and online is not seen as being cheap as the only way of going on. And then I put a slide up saying expect democratization of prices. What is democratization of prices? The first thing that you have to think of is democratization of prices means that all prices, essentially, especially the digital services, moves toward variable cost. That means that you will not be able to make money on a product that has been democratized unless you offer additional services that gives you different opportunities of making money. So let's take the last slide I have here as an example on when I gave this presentation the first time, I in invitation said, see how lucky Americans are right now, because this is a company in the US called Free Prints. And Free Prints, they offer up to 1,000 free 4x6 inch photo prints for free. No subscriptions, no commitments, just free prints. And you might think, how is that at all possible? You might think that, okay, this is something that is maybe advertising supported. No, it's not. It's essentially a freemium model. So basically, you can offer up to these 1,000 free photos, but they have, that is for the standard product. And a percentage of the users on this service opt in for higher quality, larger sizes, different substrates, different kind of time for delivery times, etc. And then they have, let's say they have maybe a premium on the price on print, but they don't have a premium on the shipping price. So if you have very low shipping price, instead of presenting a very low shipping price, you have a shipping price that would average as the same shipping price as if you were buying it yourself. So that means that if you, for example, you can actually maybe save, you can actually maybe deliver some of these photos for the shipping price anyway. So this is an example of how people are now starting to rethink of making use of very, very highly automated printing equipment and binding equipment, and to offer services that you have never really thought of as a commercial printer. This company, they have now also offered a product called free photo books. That means that basically every customer that sign up with a service can get up to 3 photo books a month for free, only pay for shipping. Obviously, the freemium model is something that we used to use and take advantage of. So this is, in my opinion, something that is really great. And wow, with this was essentially what I wanted to talk about for now. I know it was maybe not so much about the APIs, but just to conclude on this, everything you have seen here is something that is tied around how to use the APIs to build services that you may not think of as web to print solutions directly, but it is web to print solutions. It is just kind of hidden into other kind of products and services. And what I think you should remember is that a lot of these companies that are, for example, using the apps that we saw, they don't see themselves as printing companies. They are not a printing company, but they are buyers that you may not address in other ways, kind of thing, right? So this is how I think you should consider things in the future as well, because this is how I'm 100% certain that a lot of the things will move forward in the future. So that concludes it for me. So I just want to say thank you for your time here, and just ask if you have any questions. Yeah, so that is no questions. I got some appreciations. That's always nice, of course. Otherwise, I just want to tell you that right after this session in 18 minutes at 11, we have a presentation by my good friend Douglas Gibson from Infico Software. It's a UK provider of web to print solutions, and maybe he is also, I think I will ask him. I think that he's also working towards offering API solutions and some of the things we've been talking about today. And of course, I hope it was good inspiration. I hope it is something that maybe you would like to know more about it. Then feel free to reach out. My email address, I can just put it here in case people want to know more. And if you send me an email, I will also send you the presentation in case you are interested in having it with links and everything. So, and I just got a yes, Jacob, you are asking if I want to have guests. Of course I want to have guests. If anybody wants to talk to me, please join me by clicking on the request to speak, and then I will happily accept it. So Jacob, come on board. He was also participating yesterday, and it was fun, and it seemed to work pretty okay. And I hope that I hope things were good. So hang on a second here. Jacob is now joining me. So we can be up to 6 in total. So this is a fun way of interacting with each other. Now I've been alone here for almost 45 minutes, so bear with me, right? So Jacob, I can see that you joined the room. Did you have time to put on a shirt today, or how was it for you?
No. I looked at your dress code, Morten, and I thought, well, I'll be fine in my t-shirt here as well.
Remember, I'm overweight. You're not, so I always have to take it. I have to wear a tent. So what do you think of today?
I think it was really good, Morten. I really like your presentation. And reason for me asking you if I could join today is that I have, let's say, 2 observations that we need actually to stress a little bit more. You talked about the B2C shop or the B2B shop, so the commercial part or the business to business. I think there's a level more that we need to understand there, because working with all these kind of business to consumer shops or business to business shops, if you go into the business to business shops, I think we need to look into segments as well. My experience working as a CTO for many years in a graphic big print shop, we tried actually to simplify the B2B thing, on which we failed, because that worked maybe if we worked with commercial customers, but when we were trying to address and serve packaging or label customers, they had a much more specific need in terms of being like, their web to print should be more a what you call it, a procurement channel. Mm. So we needed to have a much more technical understanding on how their procurement system worked in order to receive orders directly from either their SAP system or whatever kind of, let's say, backend or ERP system they were working at. So this was no longer. Yeah.
It's funny that you mentioned this, because in the beginning I actually promised to talk a little bit about what I refer to as a service market, and this is basically because what you say is that you have to funnel data and have it associated with the buyer system, so that basically when they, for example, if you're a label company and you get like an order for 10,000 cans, then you just order one thing and then basically distributes data and keep track on the latest updated files, and maybe sometimes even also take care of the legal side of things, because, you know, for example, pharmaceutical things changes according to regulations from market to market, and those things of course can be automated, and getting these kind of products and services way more profitable. So that is what you're referring to, right, Jacob?
That is exactly what I'm referring to, and I'm just, because now hopefully after these sessions lots of people will go out and look for a web to print or a customer service portal. And I think it's very important to be successful in that, is to look, who is it that I'm going to serve? Who is my customers, and who am I trying to create a solution for? So if you are going for, if it's a B2B shop, that can still be a B2B shop, but if you have special needs, like they are really professional procurers, then you have to have a better understanding of which API they would like to use. And you need, I think my experience at least was, you need to have some kind of discussion with these guys before you go out and invest in your web to print solution. Because if you don't, there's a big risk that you will fall short in, let's say, the technology if you have already a system in place.
And in your opinion, we don't have much time, but in your opinion, is that something that happens, or is it just a warm wish for now?
That is a warm wish from now. At least I think So when you do the research for which application or which supplier that you're going to select for your web to print solutions, then you need to have this as a part of your project plan. What kind of customers is it that I'm going to serve, and what kind of technology do I need to have in place in order to receive orders from them?
Sounds great, Jacob. I want to thank you for participating. I also want to throw you out because I need to make some coffee before the next session. So are you joining us for the next session?
Yes, I am, Morten.
So I can expect questions again.
Always.
Okay, but thank you, everybody. I don't think there are any questions I haven't answered right now. So again, thank you very much. And in case you want my presentation, just send me your email address and I will send it to you. I forgot to upload it here, otherwise I could have handed it out to you. That is bad me, sorry. But thank you very much, and see you in the next session. Remember to join us